A Torah Anytime original series.
Perhaps the single greatest urban legend in the history of the land of Israel is that the Dead Sea is salty because Lot's wife, who turned into a pillar of salt, disintegrated into it. Now let's ask a question. Why, in fact, did Lot's wife turn into a pillar of salt? So we all know the story. The city of Sodom fell so deep into moral decay that Hashem decreed its destruction. It just had to go. Yet there was one inhabitant who, although flawed, he merited salvation, and this was Lot. So the angels tasked with destroying the city stopped off at Lot's house to tell him to get out and get out fast. And as Lot and his family were leaving, the angels warned him, when you run, don't look back. Well, look back is exactly what Lot's wife did, and a human Saltshaker she became. Now, this story begs a question. What exactly is so massively wrong with turning around for 1 second? What is the great harm in glancing backward and watching? What's the big deal? So she stole a glance? Okay, it's not every day that a city is pummeled by a heavenly sulfur and firestorm. Why is it such a great sin? What, that she stole a second to watch this historic apocalypse, something that never happened before in world history and has never happened since? So I saw a powerful explanation by Rabbi Victor Miller. He says that the Torah is telling us a fundamental principle in tshuva and growth. And that is, if you want to change, if you want to grow, you can't look back. If you want to grow up and better yourself and become more wholesome, you have to be a different person. You aren't the same person who ate too much. You aren't the same person who spent too much time on your phone. You aren't the same person who didn't learn enough or who spoke too much Lashon Hara. To grow is to shed the past and begin anew. Allowing the past to linger in our basements hinders our development. You can't possibly become a healthier eater with fast food coupons in your pocket. You can't possibly be less attached to your phone when you're still subscribed to the same 347 WhatsApp statuses as before. You can't possibly be a new person if you still look to and befriend the bad habits of your past. Every gadol and great person, by definition, had moments in their lives where they had to shed their old sort of mediocre self and become bigger and better and larger than they previously were. It's so easy to become paralyzed by ourselves and remain set in our ways, taking the path of least resistance in life. But the path to godless is to look forward and keep on climbing the ladder of life. Now, I heard from my father-in-law, Rav Meir Neuberger, the Rosh Hashiva of Yeshivas Or Yisrael in Atlanta, a vart that demonstrates this idea brilliantly. He pointed out that a Mitzaira, someone who had to go chutz lamachane upon completing his days of isolation outside of the camp, he needs to go into the Beis HaMikdash to become tahar. Now, the problem was that Tamei people weren't allowed in the Beis HaMikdash. So how can someone who had tsaras go into the Beis HaMikdash to become pure if Tamei people aren't allowed in the Beis HaMikdash? So to solve this problem, the Kohanim would bring the Mitzorah into a special gate called Shar Nikanor, which was both part of the Beis HaMikdash, yet not charged with the same level of Kedusha that would prohibit the Mitzorah from going there. And that way, he can be in the Beis HaMikdash without fully being in it. And that's where he becomes pure. This, my father-in-law pointed out, is symbolic of how the Torah sees the tshuva process. It wants people to go to a place where they feel like they don't belong. It wants people to go to a level of ruchnius that they didn't think they could reach, to raise oneself higher than what they previously thought they were capable of. By forever attaching ourselves to our past, we may be living a life of self-fulfilling prophecies about who we are and what we're capable of. Challenging ourselves and forever marching onwards makes us bigger and better servants of Hashem. Now, listen to this. You ever wonder why Lot's wife turned into salt of all things and not something else? Like, why not a big pillar of dust or a nice heap of garlic powder? Or, I don't know, a mountain of cayenne pepper. Why did she turn into salt of all things? The answer is because salt wasn't just a spice. It was power. You see, in the ancient world, salt was literally life itself. Salt was worth more than gold. Empires rose and fell because of salt. Roman soldiers were literally paid in salt. That's where the word salary comes from. Caravans crossed deserts just to trade it. Kingdoms built entire trade routes around it. Wars were fought over salt. In China, the first state monopoly was on salt. In Africa, slabs of salt were traded ounce for ounce with gold. Cities like Venice became rich beyond imagination because they controlled salt. Salt routes carved their way across continents from the Sahara Desert to the Silk Road. The Via Salaria, the Salt Road, literally built Rome's economy. When Napoleon marched his army across Europe, one of his biggest challenges wasn't food, it was salt, shortages that left his men weak and demoralized. And the reason salt was so important is because without salt, there was no way to preserve food. There's no way to survive the winter, or to feed armies, or to live off the land without salt. Salt was how you beat time. It was how you kept things from decaying. Salt was how you beat death. It was the technology of preservation in a world where everything else rotted away. So when Lot's wife turned back, not just with her body, but with her soul, Hashem turned her into the very thing that symbolized her mistake. She wanted to preserve her old life, her old comfort, her old identity in Sodom. She couldn't let go of the past. So Hashem said, you want to preserve yourself? Fine. You'll be preserved perfectly, like meat packed in salt, unchanging, unmoving, frozen in the past forever. She became the ultimate metaphor, a living fossil of someone who refused to grow. It's a haunting image, but a powerful one, because every time we look back and refuse to grow, we're doing the same thing. We're salting our own potential instead of letting it blossom into something new. Now listen to this story. There was once a billionaire, his name was Glenn Stearns, who agreed to one of the wildest challenges ever put on television. He was approached by people who offered him the following challenge. They said, we're going to take away your name, your money, your contacts, your status. You're going to be dropped off in a random city with just $100, a pickup truck, and a phone with no contacts. And you'll have 90 days to build a business worth $1 million. 90 days. So he accepted the challenge, and he suited up in some nondescript clothes, and he was dropped off in the city of Erie, Pennsylvania. Now, picture that. You've got $100, you know no one, you're in a city you've never heard of. What would you do first? So most people would just start panicking. Where do I sleep? Where do I eat? But not him. The first thing Glenn Stearns did in Erie, Pennsylvania was walk down the street, go to the first stranger he met, and asked him, where is the closest synagogue? A synagogue. Of all the places he could have wanted to start, he chose to start with a synagogue. He wasn't Jewish, but something inside of him understood a secret that's ancient and eternal. If you want to rebuild your life from scratch, if you want to find people of depth, of vision, of discipline, you go where purpose lives. You go where people show up. You step into a shul. What ended up happening was on his way, he found a local gym and he spent 35 of his precious $100 on a month's membership, not to work out, but to surround himself with people who were working on themselves. And it worked. Within days, he started meeting people who opened doors for him, and he built connections and he earned trust. And slowly, dollar by dollar, he built a barbecue restaurant that by the time COVID shut down the challenge 2.5 months later, it was valued at $750,000. And when they asked him later why he originally chose a synagogue, he said, because that's where you find people who are making positive changes in the world, and that's how you start anything. That line hit me, because that's us. We are the people who walk into the gym of the soul every day, and we push ourselves to grow and to rise and to become more than we were yesterday. No one in all of world history has had to start over more than the Jewish people. No one in all of world history has had to leave behind their homes and their families and their livelihoods and their languages and their communities and step into a world completely unknown more than us. Throughout history, we've been dropped into new cities and new countries and new continents, stripped of everything we knew and everything we built and everything we loved. No one has been forced to rebuild from nothing, time and time again, in city after city and continent after continent, more than the Jewish people. And yet, every single time we rebuild, every time we take the fire, we carry the fire of Sinai, the fire of our traditions, the fire of our values, and we plant it into the soil of our new land, and we take it and we nurture it, and we grow it, and we make it thrive. That's who we are. A nation forged in exile, a people who knows how to start over and make something extraordinary out of absolutely nothing. We are the masters of reinvention, the world champions of resilience. No one in history has had to reroute themselves as many times as we have. No one in history has been tested by the necessity of beginning again more than we have. And no one has done it with the determination and with the courage and with the vision of the Jewish people. We are the people who turn adversity into opportunity. We are the people who take fire and turn it into light, and take ashes and somehow, some way turn them into flames. We are the people who, no matter where we're dropped, whether in a tiny town, a massive city, a foreign land, or a strange continent, we always rise and we build and we grow and we thrive. We are the people who always find our way back to Shul, back to Torah, back to our values, back to each other. We are the people who never stop growing and never stop striving and never stop turning every challenge into a triumph. That's who we are. And that's our legacy. That's our fire. A people who take every exile, every challenge, every new beginning, and turn it into a force that changes the world. The angels were telling Light, run for your lives and don't even glance back for a second, because you are to leave here new people, saved by the skin of your teeth. Grow, change, start anew. That's the correct way to change. It reminds me a little of how I used to view Ne'ilah at the end of Yom Kippur. I used to feel slightly dejected at the end of Ne'ilah. The gates are shutting right in front of my face, and I'm going to drive home from Shul the same exact guy I was last year. The gates of heavens close right in front of my nose, and I humbly walk home the same old me. But then I heard a perspective that changed my outlook entirely. The gates of heaven aren't closing in front of you. They're closing behind you. Hashem is urging us, quick, jump into my world and close the door behind you. Come through the gates and live with me. You'll love it here. You'll be a new you. You'll live in my world. Ne'ilah isn't the end. Ne'ilah is the beginning. Ne'ilah isn't the gates sending you home. It's the gates ushering you into the garden of Hashem. It is you, version 2.0. So don't be like Light's wife and look back. Look forward and step right through the gate to a whole new version of you.